Hello film seekers, today we are looking at Idiocracy, directed by Mike Judge and released in 2006, is an American dystopian science fiction comedy film. Someday in the future, while technologies for mass production are developed at incredible speeds and reach their peak, human civilization evolves in the opposite direction, facing no competition for food and other resources. People gradually change their mindset towards reproduction. Those elites with high IQs tend to have fewer kids or even no kids, while those with IQs below the average tend to have more kids without any birth control. Such population pattern continues for hundreds of years. We see Joe, who works as a librarian at a military base. He's labeled as the most average person in the entire armed forces. He's lucky enough to be chosen to join the first so-called human hibernation project, for the sole reason that he lives alone without any family members. As a result, no one would care for him and hold the army responsible, even if the project proves to be a failure. Rita, a notorious street prostitute with no family, decides to participate in the first experiment, believing it is a good way to escape the exploitation by her pimp boyfriend, who would rather give her up in exchange for a legal permit to his procuring business, issued by the project chief. Joe and Rita are brought into the hibernation chambers and begin their hibernation journey, which was originally scheduled for 1 year later. However, not long after that, the experiment project is suspended due to a business scandal involving the project chief and the pimp guy being revealed to the public. Due to the controversy, the chief is jailed and his hibernation project is abandoned. Since then, Joe and Rita are buried below for their lengthy slumber. Meanwhile, on the Earth, humanity is undergoing dramatic change. As the uncivilized population grows to an all-time high, the population's average IQ level continues to decline, ironically to the point where people would be unable to produce their fundamental needs. Furthermore, they have no idea how to dispose of their wastes and garbage, resulting in the accumulation of several trash mountains in the city. Someday in 2505, a massive trash mountain slide occurs and nearly destroys the whole city, unearthing the buried hibernation chamber. This leads Joe to awaken at the apartment of the dumb Frito, who is clever enough to figure out a real trespasser and throws Joe out onto the street right away. Shocked by the modern world full of trashes though, Joe quickly finds that individuals living in the present speak really terrible English, and he begins to question himself slightly. However, he soon learns that his English actually sounds ridiculous to the locals, and he remains greatly confused by his surroundings. Joe tries to comfort himself from the chaos by thinking it is due to hallucination, so he finds his way to a local hospital for a mental health check, only to be astonished by the insane hospital where the doctor appears insanely stupid, and needs to be sent for a mental check instead. While feeling lost by the stupid crowd, he learns from the newspaper that he is in a future world of 500 years later. As he looks out the window, he is shocked once more by the completely messed up city. Following the health check, Joe is asked to pay the bill. However, upon discovering that Joe lacks the mandatory ID barcode on his hand, the doctor immediately activates the security alarm, attempting to catch such an insane patient and report to the government. Joe runs out of the hospital in a panic, but when he returns to the street, rather than a hallucination, he realizes the stupids have fully taken over the whole world. People are starving and struggling through the trash, and the economic engine appears to have long since shut down. In the evening, as Joe is searching the auto seller machine for food, the police show up in seconds and take control of him. He's later brought to the local court, presumably a serious place for law and order, which however, turns to be a pretty damned good place for verbal and physical abuse on the suspect in despair of the abusing audience. Though Joe gets more desperate to find his defense lawyer as actually the stupid Frito, who just kicked him the other day, trying hard to defend himself before the stupid jury. However, as predicted, Joe is found guilty for his actions. Joe is taken to the IQ test as a routine procedure before being sent to prison, but with his slightly smart trick played on the prison guard, Joe easily frees himself and flees in the escape. Joe finds the stupid lawyer Frito and asks him whether there is some kind of time machine that can make him travel back in time. Frito pauses long enough for him to comprehend the term time machine, before admitting that he may know a thing. Joe then tells he will get money and billions if he takes him to the time machine, which drives Frito to use his intellect to do him a favor, but they both have to flee the flat as the cops approach and break in. In the following escape, Joe comes across the street girl Rita, who has just awakened from her dormancy chamber, and is walking around with the intention of resuming her old business with a low IQ idiot, by duping him into billing him for hours, for having him wait for make-out. Joe drives her inside the car and then tells her about the time machine. Joe is soon spotted by the monitor, and to make matters worse, they have to abandon the car, which has run out of gas, and seek shelter somewhere else. However, before they get too far away, the police approach the car and open fire on it, which delights the onlookers and Frito, who also enjoys seeing his own car being destroyed. Joe and Rita soon follow Frito to a building. While waiting for the train, Rita had gone to the restroom, and the automated scanning finds Joe. He insists on going with Rita, but loses the opportunity to flee with Frito, resulting in his arrest by the police. Moments later, instead of being sent back to jail, Joe is escorted to the White House, where, to his surprise, the president gives him a warm welcome and nominates him as the minister. This is because people got to know through his previous IQ test that Joe is actually the one with the highest IQs remaining on the planet. Right now, he is hailed as a savior to this country of fools, but in exchange, Joe is expected to solve the food crisis, which appears to be the most pressing issue they are facing. With no option, Joe accepts the assignment initially, but he never abandons his plan to flee. Later, he finds the stupid Frito and pushes him to continue his effort in the time machine. He also finds the street girl Rita and has a secret talk with her in a research field. He instructs Rita to find the time machine using a roadmap given by Frito, but only finds that it's a stupid roadmap impossible for people with average IQ to read. As a result, they have to give up the escape plan. However, on their way back from the study trip, Joe discovers that the veggies had been irrigated with soft drinks, which would surely hamper plant development. To Joe's surprise, soft drinks have been sold everywhere as pure water for all industries, thanks to the monopoly company's lobby, which has bought off government officials and even reporters. Joe proposes that the plant be grown with pure water, but is refused by all other stupid ministers who believe that plants want Brawndo because it has electrolytes, despite not knowing what it is. Joe then alters his tactics by falsely claiming that he can communicate with plants and that the plants beg people for fresh water. As a result, Joe's idea is approved immediately. Not long after that, however, such a proposal causes the soft drink company to suffer a significant loss, and a huge drop in its stock price, in the stock market, causing half of its employees to lose their jobs. The rampaging demonstrators quickly surround the White House under immense pressure, and the president is forced to send Joe to prison, believing him to be a liar. Joe is then taken to the public arena as a punishment. All other racers have low IQs but are fully armed with strong weapons and dangerous monsters, but Joe is given merely a shabby car. Despite that, he manages to beat them down with his high IQs. Rita notices a plant that they planted starts to grow, so she pays the cameraman and sends him to farm along with Frito. She then distracts the broadcast guy away by saying there are some hoes waiting out there, allowing her to connect the live stream to the big screen when they reach there. Meanwhile, the following competitor is another foolish person with a more powerful weapon. Without any weapons to fight back, Joe has to escape and hide while attempting to convince the audience that what he did was right, but to no avail. However, at the vital moment, when she sees the green sprouts, she displays it on the big screen, and the fight is interrupted by that live stream, which shows some vegetable seeds starting to sprout out of the dirt. When the whole silent audience sees the green sprouts, they exclaim and applaud for Joe and his success, and the excited president announces that Joe will be freed immediately and promoted to deputy president. Joe, on the other hand, still hopes to travel back to his world with the time machine, but upon the request of everyone asking him to solve their problems, he decides to settle down with Rita in such a world of fools. Soon after, he is disappointed to learn that the time machine revealed by the stupid Frito at last is actually an amusement park named Time Machine, but he lets it go because he has already thought to stay here. Nevertheless, Joe, as the guy with the greatest IQs on the world, solves many basic survival concerns for all the stupid population, eventually becoming president of the United States, and he reminds everyone that there was a time when brilliant people constructed things and even traveled to the moon, when people used to write books and make movies with meaningful stories, and he believes that time will return. He forms a family with Rita, who gives birth to 3 kids with the highest IQs. In contrast, Frito, who became vice president, forms his family, but like other dumb people, he mass-produces 32 kids, all of which have the lowest IQs, so in the end, even if he did not save mankind, he got the ball rolling, which is quite good for an average guy. The movie ends here. Since you watched till the end, you might like similar content, so do consider subscribing, and turn on the bell to never miss out my videos. And thanks for watching, and do leave a comment about what you felt about the movie.